And now, our feature presentation.
TWiRT.
All right, calm down. He says that to everyone.
This calls for immediate discussion.
What's up, Doc?
All your days are belong to us.
From his palatial office of important business, or in a choice hotel in a distant land, this is Kirk Harnack. You're dialed in to This Week in Radio Tech.
Hey, it's time for This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack, and really glad to be back. Yes, we're back! After a summer hiatus and traveling halfway around the world, at least for me, big things have been happening here in the U.S. and radio, too. You've tuned in to the show where we talk about stuff that broadcast engineers talk about when they're not talking about how much they love their job or hate their job. We talk about audio technology, and that includes everything from really high-fidelity stuff to just getting a signal, please, from here to there. We talk about RF technology, that is transmitters, big transmitters, little transmitters, Wi-Fi, FM, shortwave, long wave, just all kinds of things. And we, of course, we're always open to show topics from you. We try to make the show a bit of a teaching show where we talk about experiences and maybe new technologies, but we also try to come away learning something about what we've talked about that we can share with you guys and as well as share with each other. We're glad to be on the GFQ network, GFQ, guys from Queens, and I'm just tickled to be here at the headquarters of GFQ in Queens, New York. So thanks, Andrew Zarian, for allowing me into your home and studio. This is just great. And enough of me. We got two of our usual co-hosts are with us. Chris Tarr, two things we couldn't get him on due to technical issues here, and he had to bail. He's got a console to go fix. But we do have with us Tom Ray from the Hudson Valley of New York. Hey, Tom, are you there?
I'm here, and Andrew really needs to stop tickling you. Anyway, yeah, I'm here. I'm a VP Engineering, WOR Radio New York City, and I'm here in the Hudson Valley, which is about 60 miles north of New York City and about 15 miles west of West Point Military Academy, which is what I tell people when I'm on the air playing ham radio. So.
Well, all right. Tom, we're very glad to have you back. You've got some WOR news that maybe you can talk about, maybe you can't. I'm sure you've had some adventures over the summer since we've been on hiatus, so stand by for that. Also with us, the best, wait a minute, is he really? I'm not so sure. The best-dressed engineer in radio. It's Chris Tobin from Manhattan. Hey, Chris.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Yes, it's Hawaiian shirt night. I have my box of Flair, for those of you who have wonderful memories of those old movies. Great cult stuff, but that's okay.
No, I don't remember Flair. What's Box of Flair?
Oh, Office Space.
Really? Oh,
Red Stapler.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. You're in Queens. It's comedy. Come on now.
Hey, there was a comedy show on just before we broke everything here.
Yes.
Hey,
the comedy wasn't that good because they should have broke more stuff.
And you know, Chris, he didn't pick up on it.
No.
I know.
About
it's Hawaiian shirt night, Kirk. You didn't get the memo.
Great. The one time that I'm now 800 miles away from my Hawaiian shirt is the night you have Hawaiian shirt.
Well, and there's a reason for that.
Why?
We didn't send you the memo.
Yeah, you didn't send me the memo.
Did you get the cover letter?
No, didn't get that either.
Jeez.
Didn't get that.
That TPS report didn't make it to anybody today.
No.
That's all right.
No, I feel so left out. That's okay, though. That's okay.
But at least I got my floppy disk of AOL. Right here. Here it is.
What about the CompuServe disk? You got that one too?
Yeah. I was going through a box of some equipment and came across this thing. Come on, folks. Come on. This is like memory lane here.
Do you remember your CompuServe name? Your username?
There was a number.
Yeah, I know.
No, I don't. A very long number.
I had a fairly low number. I mean, it wasn't early, but it was a lot smaller number than my friends had somehow.
And there's Genie and all the others.
Now,
anyway.
You just showed us some CDs. What about the floppies?
Oh no, this is a floppy.
Oh,
this is AOL. Oh. Hold on, let me break the seal so we can get to see it.
You've agreed to all the terms and conditions.
Okay, remember it's free, it's fun. Mm-hmm. All right, and then, there it is.
Wow. It's a floppy disk. Oh, my goodness.
In plastic.
Oh, gee, my knee.
It's a plastic wrap.
No.
I love it. Virgin floppy. It's great.
That's the girl the picnic said.
I wish I had one so I could get my 950 hours, my 1,000 hours free. Gee, me. Well, I hope that's not all we're going to talk about.
No. Actually, it's interesting. I was trying to watch the political conventions on something other than traditional television. So I thought I'd use my iPhone and see what I can get on broadband and all these different things. And the only website that streamed these events clearly without any, how would you say, poor user experience was cspan.org.
Really?
Went to all the major networks.
Yeah.
And their homepage did not even have a graphic for the conventions. You had a sort of like hunt and peck. And the one network that did tried to download some kind of M3U file for audio. Didn't work. Then I went back to the Democratic Convention website, tried their setup, which was through YouTube, I think. That worked for a while and then suddenly stopped. Went back to C-SPAN on a different phone, and for 30 minutes that connection went fine, no problems. Everybody else I tried to connect with was jitter, buffer issues, you name it, it was there. It was interesting. When you're reading about our industry and trying to figure out where the future lies, and the people that should be able to do it right don't seem to have it going very well. Or maybe they're using the excuse, we don't want to cannibalize our other program channel.
Yeah, well, that may be it. C-SPAN, they don't really care if you're watching it over the cable or over the inner tubes.
Okay, but here's the best part. While I was trying to watch this event, those network channels were not carrying the event. That's the part that is annoying. And then when they were carrying it, you're not cannibalizing anything. The idea is people get what they want from somewhere. They don't care what, you're not going to lose out. And then the trick now the networks are doing, Fox and CNN, because they're battling it out, who's at the top of the list, who's at the bottom of the list. Now what they do is when they play commercials, they put the convention video as a small square on the left-hand side. So you have to watch a commercial, listen to that, but you see the video of the convention. You sit there, say to yourself, okay, what am I doing? How does that serve an advertiser? Because everywhere I've been, people have tuned out after that comes on. Wow. What is the point behind that?
I don't know if I would like that or not. I think I might like that more than you did, but I didn't see that. I didn't watch live convention coverage. I typically ended up reading about it the next day. What you just said, though, about, okay, think back to this most recent Olympics with NBC not really getting that there's Twitter and Facebook and other things to get the news, and they delay it. We can get pictures back from Mars in 14 minutes, but the Olympics is on an 8-hour delay. What can TV learn from this, and will they? And do they have a financial model that works with streaming? And if they don't, it seems like they better get the game together and get a financial model that works.
I don't think it's as hard as people make it out to be. I mean, you can pick up Radio Inc. and there's a big article in there with one of the CEOs of a big radio company that's claiming, time to change the game. I really believe you can make it work if you just stick to what the end game is, which is getting the content out to people. Forget this advertiser thing and say, you got to drop everything for the advertiser. That's how you get in trouble. Don't follow the money in that fashion. Follow the money with the content. Be the best at bringing, we'll say for this week's topic is the Democratic Convention. Be the best at bringing that to the audience, just however it gets there. Okay, just do it, make it happen, and then you know what? People will follow. It's true and we know that from several other networks we've worked with and done some things, special projects, and lo and behold, it works. But because we're in this world of everything is so micro, I won't say management, micro measured metrics. You got these whiz kids with this, all these metrics you can do on internet stuff.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point where it's overkill. You know what? I don't care if there's 16 zip codes in one city that can look at my stream. That serves no useful purpose. Because when you do the math, that's not on a macro scale. That's on a micro scale. And it's useless. Well, I'd rather just, have the content, make it work for that local region, wherever I'm at, and go for it. You can do that with edge service. With Akamai and all these guys, you can do all kinds of stuff. Nobody's doing it.
What was also frustrating was with the Olympics was the NBC on-air stuff, because they were utilizing all of their networks, the cable networks and everything else. Sometimes on the main network, it was like, why are we watching this when men's basketball is playing over on like NBC Sports Network that not everybody can get? It's not over the air. So they may have been trying to do too much, but then again, this is the first time they've done something like that. So you got to look at it from that point of view as well.
Yeah, well, they also use the excuse for the opening of the opening ceremony, that is, that it was too large of a spectacular to really capture on the web. So you know that's why we delayed it to prime time, so you could see it on your HD TVs. Can someone explain to me that?
Well, that sounds like something that you would come up with after the fact.
Yeah, that's exactly what. But the opening ceremony, you do it on live. So what? It's 6 hours in advance. Big deal. You're still going to have an audience come after you. They're still going to come after you. Well, they should anyway.
What? Okay, it's my job to bring this back around to radio because this is This Week in Radio Tech.
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
what can radio broadcasters learn from this in light of just recently we've heard rumblings in the industry about we're going to stop ad insertion, and I guess that means downstream ad insertion. And
finally,
and
oh yeah, it's unbelievable.
Well, why can't we do ad insertion well? That's my question.
We can. I can tell you from personal experience working at a facility, we had it working, ad insertion, perfectly to a T. Tom knows the station. And it worked. It mimicked the on-air terrestrial, whatever you want to call it. It was flawless. The experience, the radio experience, the listener experience, whatever you want to call it, was right on the money. I mean, we had it timed. It's everything. And when we had to make changes for special events like elections or a press conference, whatever we had to do in alter stuff, it was in sync. But nobody cared because all people were looking at was the dollars that some companies claimed or internet whiz people said they can create if you do this ad insertion. We can do all these things. And we got down to the point where we were sitting in a meeting talking about, wait a minute, so you're telling me that Joe's Pizza on such and such street on Bell Boulevard is going to be able to get a pinpointed advertising and they're going to get results. And there were people going, absolutely. I said, really? You're making the assumption that people are listening to the stream, enough of them that at least one out of those 20 people are going to go to Joe's Pizza. And they said, yeah. I said, you're telling me there's 20 people listening to the stream right now? Well, yeah, for that purpose. It doesn't work that way. And that's what, the idea behind what we've always done for hundreds of years for radio, is it's a community. And you bring people in, they know where to go, you're credible for what you are, and when they hear stuff, they go, okay, they roll with it. That's how it goes. The internet...
I'm sorry. We'll finish that thought in a minute. I think we ought to back up a little bit more. There are people watching the show who really don't know what we're talking about in terms of ad insertion, and so let's cover what that is. And actually, I've got something I want to say about this. Ad insertion is really no different than let's say a local. I've still own a radio station that is almost all satellite programming. We get talk shows and top of the hour news and bottom of the hour state news and things like that. And we do ad insertion into programming that's coming from a variety of sources. And the timing has to work out right. Otherwise, it sounds like a train wreck. And we are able to do this very, very well, such that it doesn't sound like a train wreck. We have bumper music at the right places. We have spots that actually are 30 and 60 seconds long, and they're predictably that way. And we are in tune with the networks and how long their breaks are. And if this break at 10 after is 2 minutes and this break at 20 after is 1.5 minutes or whatever it may be. So we pay attention to that. This is a small market, by the way, and I give the credit to my business partner, Larry, who puts this together and makes it run right. But if you listen to this station, you think there's a live operator hitting everything, bam, bam, bam. It's pleasant to listen to. There's no train wrecks. There's no two audios on at the same time. There's no 30 seconds of dead air. It's a continuous entertainment or informational program. Now, take a station that does have a live operator or a music station or something and put that on the web and think about replacing the ads that normally run on the air with ads that are there for the purpose of streaming on the web. Maybe they're public service announcements or ads or some other promos that we're not going to air our regular ads, whatever it may be. And think about how messed up that could sound if you didn't get everything right in the ad insertion process. The levels are wrong. The processing is all wrong. The time of the inserted ads is all wrong. Chris, Tom, am I going in the right direction with describing the problem, or is there more to it than what I just said?
Oh, that's it alone. That's the start of it. There's many other things involved as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And,
timing.
There's a whole. It's a whole mess of things that are involved here, but the part of the problem is, and especially in some stations that are, some larger stations and such, there's very bluntly, you start making changes and things on the air, or you start doing a live program, and sometimes it doesn't quite fit. The internet stream most of the internet software I've seen kind of relies on fit everything in this box. And, well, if you all of a sudden your commercial break deviates from the box, what do? The software really can't keep up with it. And that's where it starts to sound a little bit funky. Yeah. But then it becomes, well, do you play to the audience listening on the air, or do you play to the audience listening on the stream? Well, when you've got 250,000 people listening on the air and 200 listening on the stream,
sure, yeah.
You have to play to what's on the air.
But we're broadcast professionals. The stream doesn't have to sound bad, and it does because nobody freaking cares about it. Or they say, well, here the engineer or the assistant program director or whoever will put these ads in it, and maybe he's told by programming how long the breaks are at which time in the hour, and then they never are that. And the PSAs that got dubbed in. I mean, it's just nobody cares enough. And you know what? If you're going to make that kind of bed, you ought to have to lay in it. It's not that hard to do. Now, by the way, I'm a little surprised that our industry hasn't come up with it, and maybe somebody has. It would surprise me not if Eugene Novacek over at ENCO says, oh, yeah, we've had that for 5 years. If our industry hasn't come up with a way for the on-air automation system or computer playout or spot playout system to tell the downstream ad insertion, ad replacement system, hey, this is going to be a 1.5-minute break. Hey, this is going to be a 2.5-minute break.
They do.
And does that work?
Well, here's a problem. The problem is not the technologies. The problem is the industry people, I'll just use the broad term, have decided to give the keys to what we cherish as far as broadcast over the air for TV and radio to people who are not broadcasters. And that, as you put it, people just don't care to the stream. Everyone's decided the stream, the digital is a whole different thing. I don't have time to focus on that. I got to make my money doing this other thing. And this is the mistake. As I said earlier, I put together a system that could do all that stuff. It was very straightforward. Did it give metrics as to who was tuned in, dialed up or connected, as to which is IP address and where in the world they are? No. Did we care? No. Did our website generate clicks and views that were in the order of millions, the number of millions? Yes. What was our number one competitor in websites, if you want to use that as a reference? Was a TV station, local TV. Then we switched to the, whiz-bang new way of doing things because it's much better for sales. And we still gave it away. We still gave digital away. It was ridiculous. And what happened to the website ratings and all that stuff? Yeah. Nosedive. I mean, it was like if you put on a piece of paper, on a wall chart, you could see the line go from, nice, straight, great high numbers to boop, down. And yet nobody still paid attention because they kept using the excuse, well, the internet is not, it's not broadcast. We don't, we don't do that thing. And that's where the mistake is, as Tom pointed out. It's like, it can be done. Okay. And I don't know why people just don't do it.
Of course, where we are in this right now is that we're at this uncomfortable time where internet broadcasting is not exactly new. But it's not where all the money comes from. We're at this uncomfortable time where, okay, well, maybe we should pay more attention to it. And some stations do, and many stations don't. Hey, there are plenty of people who are just pure web broadcasters who have streams that just sound awful. And then there are other ones who have streams that for years have gotten it right. It's Soma FM out of San Francisco. That has sounded great for years. But I've got one of those, Grace digital radios at my house in the front room, and sometimes we listen to Frank Sinatra channel, and sometimes we listen to Harp channel, and sometimes to my station in American Samoa, and I'm amazed by some of the channels that you punch in and you tune to, and they play that pre-roll, they play that announcement. So I'm tuning into the relaxing channel, right? I forget who it's from. It may be from Live 365. I think it might be. Punch it in, and the first thing you get is this really low-dollar DJ saying, "You've tuned into the relaxation channel on Live 365. Enjoy the music." And then it cuts to the live. It's just a dead cut to the live show, and of course it's 30 dB lower, some piano going along very softly, which is what I wanted, but I didn't want the announcement. Really, guys? Really? Have you not tuned in and listened to your own show?
The level difference.
Sorry?
I find it funny you mentioned the level difference because I kind of liken that to what goes on in television. When a spot comes into a television station, nobody really sees it or touches it. They drop it into the system, and then when it gets played back, it's about this level. And then the next thing comes on, and the next thing comes on, and that, unfortunately, is what happens with a lot of the internet spots when they're agency stuff and it's out of house. I mean, we have that at WOR, where the spots get dropped in, the levels are all over the place. But, Chris mentioned the technology before. Yeah, the technology's there. We have a system we use at OR. What we do is we send it a trigger that says, here comes the break. And if we're in a live show, it just keeps playing spots until we say, okay, we're done. Come on back. At which point, if it's not finished playing the spot, it finishes playing the spot, but it records what we're feeding it. And then as soon as the spot ends, it puts that on and then plays catch up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, no, you're right. I mean, if we had people to put the spots into the system, if we had people paying attention to things a little more, but from a business standpoint, it becomes a little hard to justify. I'll get back to you have 250,000 people listening on the air and you got 200 people listening on the stream. How do you justify adding a person there when you already have a guy, like our master control operator is already pulling his hair out because he's got so much to do?
You operate your digital systems, your digital product as a business unit where you set its goals. You say, here's what you're going to do. You put in a staff and you put them to work and you send them off and make it happen. Just like you do any business startup. That's how you treat it. And then once you do that, you can see what's going on.
Did I cut him off?
No, his headset died.
Oh. His
We'll
head.
get him back.
Okay. All right.
Chris went away.
Chris went away. That's right. We'll get him back. Oh, yeah, we'll get him back in a second. Well, you know what? And Chris is going to miss out on this. That's okay. It's just me. Here's the good news. We're having the conversation now. Finally, we're having the conversation. We've got, heads of broadcast corporations. Who was it? Ed Christian, said, and others who said we're not going to do ad replacement anymore or ad insertion. We got people who are realizing that, you know what, this is a problem. Let's do something. Temporarily, we're gonna cover it up by not doing the insertion, but maybe we ought to go back and look for real solutions. And so finally, we're having this discussion. I've been irritated for years by the awful quality of internet streaming from real radio stations. I love the content, and then they drive me bonkers with the bad level spots and the distortion and the bad upcuts and all that. Now, of course, one of my questions is, does that bother regular listeners, people who aren't, a station owner, people who aren't listening for this? Does it bother the guy on the street or the guy in the office or the guy on his cell phone Bluetoothing into his car stereo? Does it bother that guy? I got to believe that the impression is this isn't professional. I got to believe that's the impression. Tom, what do you think? Does this actually bother people? Does it make them tune away?
Well, we don't get any complaints from people about things like levels and the occasional time something gets clipped. We just don't. I don't know why. I mean, I agree. It sounds unprofessional. It sounds bush league. It sounds small market. I'm not to insult anybody from a small market, but it does.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, at some point you got to say, Chris is right. You need to think of it as a business. You need to make a business model out of it. But if that business model doesn't hold, and a lot of stations really don't take it as the business model, they just kind of say, well, we want to be on a stream, and they do it. And that's when things get all over the place and slightly out of hand. So now, I used to have a couple of friends who I used to run their computers here to run their internet radio stations, and if you'd ever listened to the stream, they all sounded good. Why? You had somebody here who paid attention to it to make sure when things went in, things happened a certain way. The processing was set up a certain way. When they cut to a commercial break, they went to the break, everything timed out, it came back, levels were good. The only thing we didn't have any control over was the quality of some of the commercials. If the commercial company compressed the hell out of the audio, well, it came on and sounded it, but there was nothing we could do about it at that point. But at least everything else was in relative balance and sounded okay.
Let me ask about this technology. I didn't look into it very much, but what's this proposed technology from Apple for removing commercials from internet streams? And would we make it more difficult for them to do that if our levels were good and the quality was good and you couldn't tell so much when you're going from content into advertising? Or do we make it too easy because we do a bad job of it in internet streams?
And I'm wondering really how that would work, because there's got to be something to trigger it. I mean, how does the software tell what the content is and what the commercial is? I mean, even a level difference wouldn't solve that. I mean, I've heard people doing running their own boards and talk radio that sit there and run the telephones a lot lower than they are, because they're trying to compensate in their headphones, and they're running the board instead of adjusting their headphones. So how do you tell? Yeah, maybe we make it a little harder for them, but I don't know. I just don't know what the answer is at this point.
Chris Tobin, you know anything about this technology?
I've heard of it. I haven't really focused on it, but my guess would be they're probably using the watermarking that's currently out there for many advertising agencies and metrics that are in use. I'm sure if you had a stream or a delivery system that was more consistent to what you do on the air, both TV or radio, it probably would help not spoof it, but maybe curtail some of the removal. But I'm assuming they're using some kind of embedded technologies in order to do that. Otherwise, Tom's right. How do you do that? That you can't just go by levels. That doesn't make any sense.
This is just a perfect opportunity to segue into an advertisement that is contained within the show. We're not going to do a bunch of. We're not going to go to black. We're not going to have a big level change. But I am going to ask you as a viewer to point your browser to telos-systems.com. Now, they're my employer. They're also a sponsor of the show. The folks at Telos Systems, my colleagues, and I'm so glad to work with them, my colleagues have developed this really cool device called the Telos Pro Stream. I guess it's a good time to point it out. The Telos Pro Stream is a hardware, it's an appliance, it's a one-rack unit appliance that takes audio in and has built-in Omnia audio processing. So it does 3 bands of Omnia processing. Well, it's got a wideband processor to kind of make the levels kind of proper and the same. It's got 3-band, low, medium, high, with good crossover points, and then it's got a look-ahead limiter that is designed exactly for the codec that's going to follow it. Then also in the same box, there is an audio codec. This is what turns audio into a high-rate audio, high bitrate audio, into a low bitrate. And you can use MP3 or AAC or HEAAC, or even HEAAC V2. That's what a lot of broadcasters are finding out. Hey, that's the thing to use, because you can stream at really good entertainment quality. Sounds very nice. In fact, sometimes it can sound really great. And at 56 kilobits per second. So your distribution costs get to be pretty reasonable at that kind of bit rate. Well, the Telos Pro Stream, like I said, 1-rack unit box, plug in the power, analog audio goes in, or you can feed it with live wire. It does have a live wire connector on it. In fact, it's got 2 Ethernet jacks on it. So this can help you keep your network separate. If you've got a live wire network, just plug it into that and dial up the channel that you want to stream, and that's how you get the audio into it. And you have a separate Ethernet port to feed over to your WAN port, whatever port you're going to use to feed into a Shoutcast server, whether it's on-site or somewhere else, or an IceCast server on-site or somewhere else. Or we've also got it set up, you can feed a Wowza server to get into the flash technology. So you can feed that. Again, on that separate port, you can do that if you want to, and thereby keeping your Axia live wire and your business network separate. Or, hey, you can still feed it with analog audio. It also has an analog audio output on it, and that lets you feed the Omnia processed audio back out if you want to listen to it somewhere else, maybe for confidence monitoring of the Omnia processed audio, or just to use it somewhere else, like for maybe a headphone feed or something. Check it out on the internet, on the web, at telos-systems.com. I'm speaking of the Telos Pro Stream. The list price is $19.95, just under $2,000. Hey, of course, you can stream using Omnia AXE software. You can stream using free software from Shoutcast or from other folks. But if you want to get real, licensed, actual real thing, HEAAC V2, if you want to get Omnia processing, and you don't want to do software updates and, what I call Bill Gates updates, you don't have to do it, because the ProStream runs Linux. It's an appliance. Of course, you can update the software if you want to, but you're not going to be prompted to like with you would with a computer. Check it out at telos-systems.com. And thank you, Telos, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And now we'll segue real quietly right back into the show, so Apple can't tell the difference. or could they? Chris Tobin, you think Apple could have cut that out? Pretty smart guys there. Tom?
Is Chris? Oh, there's Chris.
Okay.
Chris, are you back?
Oh, I see what happened. No, I found it. Sorry, my fault. I don't think they would have been able to get that out unless they're using keywords and in a vocabulary and dictionary form that they're siphoning out. I would say, this is a commercial. I'm going to have to research this one.
Yeah, I'm curious. Those Apple guys are pretty clever. They say they got the technology. They're often right about it.
Well, yeah, but there's a lot of stuff out there that's embedded in advertisements, that is. And you'd be surprised the stuff. I worked on a couple of projects over the years, and it's actually scary. It's amazing the stuff that's embedded in things, and whether it be for intellectual property protection, copyrights, DRM, tracking. A friend of mine works for a company that their sole purpose is to just monitor the airwaves and for television as well, for TV, radio, and cable, and check to make sure commercials are properly airing and products aren't being spoofed and what do you call it? Copyright, trademark, service marks are not being infringed upon. It's just mind-boggling, this technology that's available. And sometimes I think broadcasters are way behind the curve and not paying attention.
Hey, so let's chat about a couple of technical topics, maybe things that happened to you over the summer. And, hey, if you don't mind, I'll go first while you guys think about it a bit. I know I kind of popped this on you guys. So what did you do over the summer that was interesting? Well, I got to do some extra work for Telos. They needed a little extra help having me go do some training over in Asia. So I got to go to Hong Kong and visit some radio stations there. In Hong Kong, ISDN still no problem. They can get it quite easily on a few days' notice. IP, getting a internet drop somewhere, not as easy. And there is the Great Firewall of China, and there is the IT department to deal with. So it's kind of interesting. ISDN easy to get, no restrictions, back and forth from the remote location back to the radio station, not a problem. But you want to do a remote over an IP connection, that can be a little bit more difficult, a lot more difficult, because the potential for the free flow of information is so much greater with Ethernet and IP. So usually the firewalls are just really locked down, not just incoming but outgoing as well. They only allow the ports that on a very much needed basis. So that was interesting. Got to go to Beijing, and in Beijing I visited two big broadcasters. It's all government owned there. But they kind of operate like a commercial station would in terms of pride in their work and competitiveness with the other stations. I visited one facility that looked like 9 different radio station logos on the wall. So they had a traffic station and different music formats and some talk stations and so forth. And I was really amazed to see these engineers at these Chinese stations in Beijing who were just excited, enthused. They wanted to learn about technology. In fact, they were installing a whole new automation system. I'm sorry, I don't remember if it was RCS or ENCO or what it was, but they had computers just laying everywhere, networking the whole thing together and making sure all the configurations were right. So I got to tell you, radio is really alive and well and vibrant, at least in Hong Kong and in the capital city of mainland China, in Beijing. There's a lot of talent and engineering going on there. By the way, the engineering manager of Radio, I guess it was Radio Beijing, was a female, and smart lady. She was in charge of all these other engineers and handling a number of different projects. And she asked me about where to send her son to university in the U.S. I gathered a few other people around, and we kind of figured out that her son needed to go to MIT. That's the kind of guy that he is. We also had the chance to go to Taiwan and visit radio stations in Taipei, and then a little farther south on the island of Taiwan in a city called Kaohsiung. And those stations operate, a lot like U.S. stations do. It's usually 1 or 2 stations in a facility, program directors, on-air talent, engineers. They tend to have lower power transmitters than we're used to here in the U.S. But, hey, they're interested in audio processing, although I must say probably not as much as we're fanatical about it in the U.S. or as much as they are in some parts of Western Europe. But certainly the engineers there are up on stuff and really pretty interesting. Hey, if you happen to be my friend or follow me on Facebook, I over the summer I posted a number of pictures from those trips on my Facebook page. So I ran into one station owner, and I swear that this guy and Kenny Rogers were separated at birth, and this guy was sent to Taiwan to go be a radio star. Then I got to go to Manila in the Philippines on the next trip, or right after Taiwan. And this was just amazing. I had not been to Manila to the Philippines yet at all. And man, what an industrious country! Man, these people just work. And there's so much free enterprise and business happening everywhere. Radio stations there were pretty interesting as well. They're always trying to improve the audio and improve their audio consoles. There's a big network there. I think it's called is it AESCBN, something like that. Maybe I got the call signs wrong. It's six letters altogether. Got to be on the air for a few minutes with one of the top 40 kind of stations there, where they speak Tagalog. They don't speak English on that particular station, but they spoke English to me. And they're replacing their audio consoles at this bunch of stations. So I was just really, really enthused to see how much enthusiasm there is and how much people are trying to carry on very professionally in other countries. And I don't always see that in the U.S. I see sometimes owners and sometimes program directors and engineers who are tired of the status quo. They're not enthused about their jobs or where the industry is or where it's going in the U.S. So, man, it's just a breath of fresh air to go somewhere where everybody seems to be excited about their radio career and what they're doing. I'm sorry, I don't mean to harp on the U.S. I'm just, you know how it is. The other interesting thing I got to do over the summer was go to American Samoa, and maybe on a future show we'll feature some pictures of that if you haven't seen them already on my Facebook page or through some tweets I did. But I got to go replace 3 audio consoles at the stations that I'm part owner of in Pongo Pongo, American Samoa. And so we took out some older analog consoles and we put in some new Axia consoles. And it was an amazing experience in that it just went so quickly. And once you have a few wires connected, once you have some Cat 6 cables connecting the studios, oh my goodness, it just becomes so easy to do and change anything. And then even remotely. I had set up the NTP incorrectly on the consoles, so their time as displayed on the console was jumping around. Kirk didn't do it right. And so, from 6,000 miles away, 8,000 miles away at my home in Nashville, I was able to just jump in there. And once I figured out what I did wrong, I was able to jump in there and reconfigure the consoles and add a proper NTP time server to the PC that I was using for that. And now they work fine. So I was able to troubleshoot and do that from 8,000 miles away, the comfort of my office, and it really, really worked out well. And it points to the power of doing things over IP. Just amazing what you can get done. I know I go on and on about that, and sure, my employer would want me to, but the technology is just something to be enthused about. I guess my takeaway from that is, my goodness, if you're still wiring analog audio consoles, there's a whole world of this is so easy out there for you. And of course, the audio quality is basically perfect. I mean, if the digits are getting around, there's no degradation in the audio anywhere. So that's my report from my summer vacation. Who wants to go next, class?
The first day of my summer vacation, I woke up.
Yeah.
Then I went downtown to look for a job.
Louder, Tom.
Yeah, Tom, your audio is a little low.
Yeah, I've changed mics. Let me give me a sec here to plug the other mic back in. Live on the air. There we go.
All right.
No, and we may have found the source of the hiss around here, but I don't know. I'll have to take a look at this computer during the week. Anyway, no, summer vacation, EAS. That's what a lot of it was. A lot of us had to install our new emergency alert system boxes and then get it working with the CAP protocol from FEMA, which actually wasn't that bad. because most of the boxes already had it built in. But one of the issues we had here in New York was, and we're still having, that New York doesn't fully have their cap server up and running yet. But it's working fine from the feds. Matter of fact, I have an input from New Jersey. We're obviously a New York station, but we do, as a favor to New Jersey, we send out some New Jersey alerts. And there was a tornado warning in Jersey the other night. We got it from National Weather Service, as did the local thing in Jersey, which immediately put it up on the cap server, and we also got it through the cap server. So it does work. And but I'm also finding there are some quirks with the EAS stuff. We had a test in New York yesterday. We had a situation where we did not originate the monthly, but the station that did, we relayed it. It went through fine, and the only problem was that the little two-tone alert, that's the that annoying tone that comes out, not the bzz, bzz, bzz stuff, but the other tone to get your alert.
The one we've heard for years, but now shorter. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, ours ended up going 16 seconds, but because for whatever reason it recorded the other station. Come to find out, the new EAS boxes are somewhat sensitive to that two-tone level, and if you don't have the threshold set right, it will record the whole thing and make it part of the message.
Oh, geez. That doesn't sound good at all.
So we're still finding stuff out.
Wow. All right. So you had fun with EAS. You know, I'm sorry I'm not enthused about EAS, but I know we got to do it, so I'm glad it worked. Glad you got it figured out.
Yeah, me too. But you know, I mean, a lot of people were in the same boat. They all had to get it working. They all had to get it up and running. So for some people, it was last minute, and you know, it is what it is. Matter of fact, I was reading in the EAS list server today, and there was some new alert out in California. Apparently, the cops can set the thing off now for something, and there was no reason to do it. And some stations piped up and said, "What the heck is a blue alert?" Because it's part of the plan, but nobody said anything. So,
it's part of the plan. A blue alert. So that's an alert that comes from the other side of the thin blue line. Oh, the state police. Okay.
At least out there, they call it a blue alert. So, I looked at it. I just thought it was kind of funny because, yeah, that happens, and you know, in New York City, we have some issues. I mean, we've had almost a complete turnover in the Office of Emergency Management, and I've been working with them and trying to get their cap compliant stuff installed and get them up and running properly. And it's been a challenge. It's been fun, but it has been a challenge.
Hey, EAS, that doesn't have to go on your web stream, does it?
Actually, no.
So what happens to EAS when
the guys over at Sirius do run it for a national alert? Now, while it doesn't have to happen on the web stream, we happen to feed the audio from WOR into the web stream, except when we're blocking a spot. So it ends up going out on the stream.
Gotcha. Do you think it should go on the stream? Are we setting a precedent that we really wouldn't want to follow through on when? Or do we?
Well, you know, it depends. I don't know. I really don't know. Unless it's a national level emergency, I don't know how useful it would be on the stream. From the very simple standpoint is you don't know where those people are listening. If a guy's listening out in Phoenix, what the heck does he care about an alert being issued in New York City? If a guy's listening in the Philippines, why does he care? There's an alert in New York City. So it may be a tune-out factor on the stream, but you know, once again, getting back to the point we brought up before with streaming, people come to you for the content. They'll sit through the commercial break. They'll sit through the EAS test to hear that content. They're there for a reason, and it's not to listen to the commercial sets.
So is Pandora doing EAS tests?
I don't think so.
No. Is Soma FM? No.
Probably not.
Live 365? No.
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 Well, yeah, but you know, Live 365, unless you're streaming your radio station, why would you?
Yeah.
That's a private stream.
Yeah.
It's not required under federal law.
Yeah.
So, and as a matter of fact, for Sirius satellite radio, I don't think it's required for that. I might be wrong on this, but I don't think it's required. They're required only to carry the national level. And like I said, I don't think it's a requirement. They have EAS to carry a national level emergency. And I actually find it kind of funny in the middle of a song to hear Sirius sending out EAS FSK tones.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, well, we'll cover that. I'll be very opinionated on another show. Chris Tobin.
I agree with you. EAS needs to be treated with more programming respect. Otherwise, it's just going to languish the way it is. And putting it on the stream, it makes no sense unless you're going to explain what's going on, because you're right. Most people probably aren't going to figure out what's happening if they're outside the area. If they're outside the United States, they have no clue at all. But, again, the stream, there's a lot of things you could do with it that none of us in broadcasting, both TV and radio, are doing proper. And all the other non-broadcast folks who are streaming with music and whatever else they're doing are getting it because they're treating it, as an entity. And that's what's going to happen. EAS, though, has always been my pet peeve. It's never been EBS going back to the early days. Unless programming embraces it and and treats it as all the other program elements in the 24-hour clock as we know it, it's going to always languish. And unfortunately, it's a sad truth. And that, doesn't help the public service.
And
that's my opinion.
Great. Well, I don't disagree with that. Actually, Chris, I meant to ask you more about your summer.
Yes.
And I'm a little surprised you're not over in Europe at IBC right now.
I was planning on it. I actually had everything in place, and I have some family commitments that came up that I need to address. So as a result, I had to change the schedule.
Okay. You're the boss. You can do that. You got people in Europe, right?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we actually do. Right. So I'm already getting the emails and a couple of text messages and pictures and video of stuff. So it's cool. I love this connected world on some levels.
So in your world of broadcasting, which now includes manufacturing codecs for TV and radio, what happened? What can we walk away from, and what's a teachable moment from your summer for us?
My summer was spent actually traveling to a couple of SBE chapters and talking to folks about, as you pointed out earlier, IP and the revelation that it offers if you really are smart about the future. And as you pointed out, why would you want to do an analog console these days when you can do so much more with IP? So I took up some offers and just toured around the country talking about IP, not peddling any technology, any products. Just thought I'd just share my thoughts and my experiences and what I've been able to do with IP to folks that are literally just, I'll say, as a metaphor, just putting their toe in the pool, tipping in the water. I also traveled to a couple of colleges and talked to folks about the same thing. And it was actually a lot of fun because I got back the feedback. It's always fun when you talk to folks outside of your little circle and understand where their world is and how it, the bubbles collide and bounce around. And I have to say that it was a lot of fun. And I actually traveled to the Caribbean for some vacation time and got to meet up with some broadcasters there and learn even more about how things are very different and because of their local, the way they do things locally. And as you pointed out with your travels and the excitement and the fervor that a lot of these folks are using and doing with their business, it was just wild. I mean, I went to several radio stations doing live broadcasts. These remotes they were doing, which just reminded me of the stuff I did 20 years ago.
Isn't that exciting? And
it was like, and they're making money. These guys aren't doing it for free.
Yeah.
I actually sat with the owners of a couple of groups, and I said, so not to pry into the dollars, but the money part of your business, are you making profit? Are you covering the nut? Are you paying the bills, keeping people employed? And they were like, absolutely. They go, the market is soft. Yes, we are definitely, advertising is down, but we're making it work. And I said, so what works the best? I'm curious. What do you find works the best? Every one of them. Well, we go to local events. I said, well, don't you do like big national ad campaigns or get involved with co-ops with the huge, beer companies or soda or, food? No, they don't work that much because those people already they already know what they want. That audience, you're buying chips or you're buying soda. You know what your brand is. You're not going to be swayed or any other way. And I'm not going to spend energy to try and sway your taste for one moment. I was like, well, that's interesting. So that was what I garnished. It was a lot of fun.
Gotcha. You mentioned something about that, the localism that they were doing in the Caribbean, and it made me think of something else that I noticed in American Samoa. We have two FMs there, and one of them is a Samoan language station. So there's a whole lot of vowels going on there on the air, and in the morning show, there's this guy that comes in. His name is Alu, And Alu's probably, I don't know, 60, 65 years old or so. And he comes in every morning wearing his lava, a skirt to the rest of us. And he brings his ukulele with him. And he's in the studio. He's talking back and forth with Tracy, the morning girl. And every couple times an hour, he breaks out the ukulele and starts playing in the microphone and sings a little Samoan song. And I'm sitting there working, soldering something together or working on a computer, and I hear this going on thinking, is that live music on my radio station? And it's in a language that I don't understand, but it sounds really beautiful. And the little ukulele playing along, I thought, well, this is just great. I mean, it's just a great local radio moment, and they do this every day. Now,
isn't it great when they do that?
Yeah, exactly, it is. Tom, go ahead.
Well, no, I used to do some work for a couple of stations down in St. Thomas, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it was kind of the same thing. There was a guy, an older gentleman, who would come in and he'd do a talk show during the day, but he didn't have a ukulele, but he'd come in, yeah, man, and he'd sit down and he'd talk, you name it, they talked about it, and he'd invite 20 people into the studio that could hold about 5, and... it was just a wild thing. And then some days he'd decide to play music, and he'd play Engelbert Humperdinck, he'd play Frank Sinatra, he'd play local island music. It was just a very, very cool thing. It was a lot of fun.
Well, people do tune in, and of course in Samoa you've got a lot less availability of internet, so that's not so convenient. I mean, at your house, at my house, here at the GFQ network, you got internet everywhere, and it's cheap, and if you want to enjoy entertainment from wherever, it's so easy. I'm wondering though, I mean, I really don't know the answer to easy anything via internet or localism, whether it's via internet or terrestrial transmitter. What do people want to consume? And I live in Nashville. There's some good Nashville stations, certainly, but I tend to always choose something that's coming in from outside my market when I listen, whether it's a podcast or some internet radio. Occasionally I'll tune into Nashville radio, but that's usually when I'm in the car. I'm not putting Nashville radio down, but I'm just worried that there's too many people out there like me who have given up or are not so interested anymore in local radio. Maybe it's different in New York or San Francisco or big cities around the world. But I just being in Samoa and hearing that localism just really turned me on. Of course, I didn't have much of you can't listen to internet radio very well there anyway. American Samoa has the worst and most expensive internet in the United States, according to a couple of magazines. So.
Yeah, well, down in St. Thomas, they had the internet really wasn't all that expensive, but it had to be microwaved in off island, and quite frankly, the phone company over there, you're lucky you had dial tone, never mind internet. So everybody had this little microwave antenna on their house. So
we're gonna have to catch up on that kind of stuff next show. We're out of time here, guys. If this has been our hiatus return show, our comeback show from the summer of 2012, and thank you all very much for watching and listening, and also thanks to Telos for sponsoring this episode of This Week in Radio Tech. I encourage you to go to the website at telos-systems.com and check out the product I talked about on this show, the Telos Pro Stream. It does audio processing and internet streaming at the same time. In fact, it's got a new beta version of software that's available to you if you get a Pro Stream. It now has 2 encoders built in, so you can encode the same encoder at 2 different bit rates or 2 totally different encoders, and you can send those encoded streams to up to 4 different servers outside, either inside your building or outside. Point is, you can send it to 4 different servers. So check it out, the Pro Stream from telos-systems.com. Hey, Tom Ray, thank you very much for being with us. I appreciate your time and effort on this comeback show, episode 135.
Well, we appreciate being here, Kirk, as always. It's always a lot of fun. And, hey, we'll see you all next week.
All right. And Chris Tobin, from Best Dressed Engineer in Manhattan. Certainly. What?
Well, it's Hawaiian Shirt Day, so yeah, the dressing is a little dressed down, that's all. This is just for a tribute to Office Space, for those of you who know that.
You know what I'm going to do? Next time, I'm going to wear my Hawaiian shirt, and y'all won't be. So take
That's
that.
fine.
Take that.
Because because that means we got the memo.
As long as you don't play ring toss with pineapple slices, we're all set.
Woo! Okay. And on that, we're out of here. Hey, the website is thisweekinradiotech.com. If it's not correct at the moment, it will be correct in a few days. The RSS feed from that, since we changed over from one network to now we're on the GFQ network, gfqnetwork.com, and you can always watch it here at gfqlive.tv. And we'll also, in short order, we'll have the episodes available on iTunes for you to download the audio, and also there's these episodes on video will be posted on YouTube like other adventures from the GFQ network. So, hey, thanks for putting up with the rough comeback and the rough start. We're going to do it again next week, and please be sure you tune us in. But I got to tell you, sometime between now and the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, we're going to do another contest. We gave away a whole lot of Omnia AXE software, but we're going to give away a piece of hardware. I'm not sure what it is yet, but I'm working with Frank Foti and other guys at Telos to give away something really cool. So, hey, mind your P's and Q's and retweet the start of the show, and you're going to be eligible to win whatever it is we're giving away. We'll have more details on that coming up. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks very much to the GFQ Network and to Andrew Zarian. We'll see you next time on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.
That's all the bandwidth we can pilfer this week. Another TWiRT is propagated, and all the transmitters and audio equipment live happily ever after, thanks to the handsome engineer and his kind, benevolent care. We'll be back next week.
Lord willing and the creek don't rise.
This Week in Radio Tech. Subscribe to iTunes and you'll never miss a show. Search for This Week in Radio Tech in the iTunes Store. Soliciting is strictly encouraged. If you like today's show, tell a friend. If you didn't like it, we were never here. Kirk Harnack's wardrobe provided by the Salvation Army and the Red Cross Disaster Relief Services. Hair and makeup provided by Penelope Garcia Hernandez Weinberg.
He's unique, wouldn't you say?
I just want to get it over with.
This ends this transmission. Tango, Whiskey, India, Romeo, Tango. Signing off. Okay.